Thank you very much. It's of course a big pleasure to be here and see so many people being interested on the 25th of January still and again and again and again, I hope. It's not our first event we are having on the 25th, and hopefully it will not be our last. I'm very happy to introduce three, I think, very exciting speakers to you. Next to me is Dr. Dina Makram-Ebeid. She received her PhD in social anthropology from the London School of Economics and Political Science. You've been studying also social anthropology and political science in both in London and at the AUC in Cairo. And Dina's work is focusing on work, property, and class in revolutionary Egypt, and I assume that you will also speak a bit about that today. Then here is Ramy Essam, very well known. You don't need an introduction, but for those of you who are maybe not aware of all the details, of course you know him as the singer of the revolution. You were very active at Tahrir as an artist, but also as an activist. You received an award in Stockholm in November 2011. And there in the Laudatio, somebody said something I think was very nice. Said, Ramy Essam continues a long tradition of protest singers who have become symbols of civil rights movements and through their music express frustration and hope in songs rather than speech. Today we are very happy that you will do both, sing and speak to us. And I'm really very, very glad that we have an artist here on the panel because, of course, often scientists dominate these debates, and any political transformation, deep transformation, of course, needs more than words. It absolutely also needs songs and art and inspiration, and so I'm looking forward to that very much. And here to my right is Ahmed Badawi, who has been studying at the SOAS at London School of Economics. You received your PhD in political science from Humboldt University, and you have been working in different both NGOs, research projects, and think tanks. Currently, you are the co-director of Transform, a Center for Conflict Analysis, Political Development, and World Society Research here in Berlin. You're also lecturing, and I had the pleasure to do a small project on local development or local political initiatives in Egypt lately, and I think you will also speak about that. And so, yeah, I'm very happy to have you all here. I'm very much looking forward to your comments and analysis. Of course, the theme is the revolution. 4 years. It's the 4th anniversary, what is behind us and what we are heading to, and Dina will start. We'll have like 10 minutes from each of the panelists, then I'll come up with a couple of questions, and then of course, knowing that the Gumhur al-Mayadin is always very active and has a lot of things to say and ask, the floor will be open to you, of course. So, Dina.
Okay, thank you for inviting me to be here. Thanks, Mayadin people, for the invitation, and thank you all for showing up on a Sunday evening. This is usually when people are at home baking, so it's good that people are here, but I think, and it's also equally scary, as always, whenever there is a room full of people. It's also challenging to be invited to comment on a 4th anniversary of the revolution, particularly because one doesn't really know what exactly to speak about. So before coming here, I was wondering whether I should be speaking to you about the continued ruthlessness with the political... Okay, even more. Wow. Do we need that thing? So, I was wondering what exactly I should be speaking to you about, so whether it should be about the continued ruthlessness with over 40,000 political detainees in prison since August 2013, the continued police violence marked by the death and killing of Shayma Sabagh yesterday, or perhaps about my own participation in our inability to access Tahrir Square same time last year, and my friends being snatched around me in Talat Harb, and being snatched over and over again in Shura and Ittihadiyya. Or I should speak to you like an analyst, since I have a doctor title here, so I need to give you something that's meant to be academic. about what happened with how the Muslim Brotherhood led the groups who turned that revolution into what some consider a failed revolution, or actually to speak to you about the labor movement that I'm interested in and I've been researching, which then raises the question of whether one should speak as an academic or in fact as a so-called activist. And I don't think that it's possible anymore now to speak of the revolution just in an analytical terms, and I think what I'll try and present here is something of a combination of the personal. I'm always pro the feminist mantra that the personal is political, and so if it's a bit too much of a dose for you, bear with me. I think I'll try and come to something out of what I'll share here. So yeah, I'll weave something together from reflecting on what is 4 years since the revolution. Okay. And now the water is going to do more. Okay, so whatever. So what is 4 years? To me, 4 years is distance, and distance is exactly what I feel and many feel regarding the revolution now. Distance is not a bad thing. I think distance is a good thing because it gives you the chance to look without being intensely immersed or affected by the events, to look clearly at what was going on and to be able to acknowledge our own mistakes as well. If this was a love relationship, 4 years would be enough time to, let's not say move on, but at least be able to look without too much pain. And so I think we have an opportunity here by taking that distance. And the revolution, I always think anthropologically, is indeed a relationship. It is a relationship that was formed between people who share the same beliefs, and it's a relationship between people and space as well. And we are dealing with the transformation of both these relationships over time. And that space here that we have 4 years on is, I think, a good space to start and think what we did wrong and what we can build on from what we did since then. Which also takes me to the second point related to today's event. When Atif called me to ask if I would speak here, I actually had very different plans in mind. I wanted to go to Greece and to see the building up that was happening to the Greek elections. To me, that felt like the right thing to do on the anniversary of the Egyptian revolution. To work with others, to learn from others' kind of experiences, to learn what crises produce, and to move away from talking. If anything, I think one of the things that I didn't manage to resist, but to do is I don't think we need more talking on our sides, and we don't think we need more talking to each other and talking to the converted. The moment we're in, if there is a message to say today, requires us to change our tactics and to change our priorities. I don't need to tell an audience like this what a bleak moment we are in. I think that it is known to everybody. We cannot protest, we cannot set up organizations, we cannot access the mainstream media, we cannot sue the government in anything related to business deals that it does. And we have absolutely no say in the economic sphere. But the bleakness of the moment actually could be an opportunity. It is an opportunity because it forces us to work much deeper with communities and to deepen really our revolution than the tactics we used to do before. Most importantly, also, the crisis that caused this revolution persists. It persists no matter how much the current regime says that it's actually tackling it. Economically, for example, I like the analysis of economic journalist Mohammed, who looks at this narrative of the upcoming economic conference, this, big, in Arabic they'll call it fankoush, it's this something that the product that the government is trying to sell. But in reality, the documents show that, in fact, the Gulf money that we are receiving have been reduced. So we have actually something like 50 million $500 million less than what we got in 2012, 2013, and that the investments that are coming in are being invested in the financial sector, which then means that it's not going into creating a lot of jobs or solving the crisis that exists. If anything, the crisis is being deepened and is being solved superficially. It is being deepened on many levels, economically, ecologically, socially. You can feel it just in the vibes in Cairo, right? Ecologically, I think anybody who was there over last winter, who's just come from there, knows what it means that there is a cold that kills in the hundreds. The delta continues to be under threat of disappearing, and the solutions have been something like some loans from Emirates worth which is a big sum, $6 billion to deal with our fuel shortages and our fuel problems. But these are crises that cannot just be solved by this amount of rationale or this amount of money or this rationale. It requires us to work with the communities that are being affected by this crisis in a different way, in the sense that we need to be much more emerged and to work on the slow kind of unseen level. I think there is a lot of work done on the kind of spectacle level, and it's important. I'm not undermining at all that people should continue to try to be on the streets, but this crisis will not be solved in that way. One of my favorite anthropologists and anarchists is David Graeber, and in his book Revolution in Reverse, he speaks about the importance of setting up institutions so that when insurrections happen, we can actually turn them to become something successful. In 2011, that was not possible. It was not possible because for 30 years, I like the Arabic word, البلد اتجرفت, as in there was absolutely nothing to build on. No spaces for building institutions, in a way that would have made the insurrection in 2011 something more successful than it is now. But we are in a different moment, and we are in a moment in which we can build on what has happened earlier, and I think there are no alternatives but to work in this specific way. So in a very bleak way, I have hope in the crisis, and I have hope that the crisis will continue creating for us alternatives. And I'm not one of those people who want to say, you know, stop. I don't like the patronizing tone that says stop protesting, or you were just childish and protesting, and now you needed to have real alternatives. The alternatives are often created in the processes, and it is only by working in the movements that these outcomes will emerge. It's not like we should have known something and we just didn't. So as much as I think actually we need to continue talking to each other and coming to events like this, and because, you know, what we're doing is really building communities, and building communities is at the end a revolution. This is what revolutions are. But I think we really need to be thinking more of what we could be doing away from that moment of 2011, and given the restrictions that force us to actually work more within communities and with people. Now, to end here, I know that many people would think that, you know, we are in Germany, we're far away, what can we do? I mean, the most that we could do is show up to events and, you know, work on our own writings, possibly, or something like that. But I think the moment, you know, you start thinking of your own place and privilege a bit more creatively, there are alternatives that could be born. I know that, and I want to bring this here because it died completely, and I want to leave on something that's more concrete for people to also think, and, you know, maybe we can chat about this. But I was talking to Atif earlier about, you know, there are more than 150 students that have been dismissed from university because of their political participation on campus. These students have been banned from joining any other university, and it is, I think, the responsibility and given the possibilities here of many of us to try and help some of these students to come and probably study here as an alternative. I mean, I think this is just a stupid way to say there are so much to do from being here, apart from us trying to continually feel secure in talking to each other. I think having privilege in a world of need can make you go crazy. And I struggle personally with all the time feeling that the people I talk about, or the people I have worked with in my ethnographic work are kind of distant subjects that are almost unreal. And I think it's important, and dissociating has been something that lots of revolutionaries have been talking about as an unfortunate side effect of dealing with that intensity of an event like that. But I think these moments actually are the moments we build on in our ability to create actually things out of this mess. And I think privilege reversed in this situation, in an ability to think of it, think of using it in more creative ways, might get us somewhere else. So I think 4 years on, there is a lot to build on, but there is definitely lots to learn in terms of changing our tactics as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks to Mayadeen for always hosting such interesting events. If I'm not mistaken, I think there was a tone of frustration in what Dina was saying. And I just arrived from Egypt today. And this is definitely one of the sentiments. It's the mood in Egypt now, especially among activists and people who were hoping that January 25th was going to bring a new reality to the country. But I think retrospectively, one of the main problems was a problem of unrealistic expectations. 18 days cannot change a structure that has been in place for not only 30 years, it's actually been in place since 1954. And right now, we shouldn't be too frustrated because January 25th has actually changed a lot. And if we are frustrated now because the kind of change that has happened did not meet our expectations, we shouldn't also lose sight that something has changed. And what I will try to do is very quickly in the next 10 minutes try to explain what I mean by this, that something has changed. I think what has definitely changed is stopping the race to the bottom that Egypt was on. Until and right after the elections of 2010, things couldn't have been worse in Egypt. The only other bad scenario that one could think of was total collapse and total chaos without any hope for the future. For 30 years, as Dina said, and she used a very good term, this term of al-balad al-garrafit, for 30 years there has been very systematic destruction of everything in the country, from the economy to political life, to morality, even inside homes. January 25th put an end to this. It doesn't mean that things are going to get better, but at least there is now a growing realization by everybody that the status quo cannot continue. What I see now, there's a very delicate balance in Egypt, and it could go either way, either further to the bottom, but then this time round it will be our collective responsibility if things really go bad. And it could improve, which is not likely. It is unlikely that there will be marked improvement in the short to medium terms, but at least now is the time where everybody has to do something to help. What does this mean? It means that any talk of a revolution is not possible anymore. And putting it in this way is something that a lot of people do not like. But we have underestimated the depth of the state, this massive, huge, corrupt bureaucracy that has been governing the country for the last 60 years. It is not only deep, it is deep and it's heavy. It is becoming a massive burden on society to innovate. It doesn't allow for any creativity. And the ones who are running the state are repeating exactly the same mistakes that they were repeating for the last 30 years. And one wonders what is it that is preventing people from learning sometimes. Cognitive dissonance, delusive ideology, you name it. But there is an incredible incapacity from those who are running the state to learn. In fact, it seems that they are learning the wrong lessons from what happened in January 25th. I was sitting with people and they say, they can't even understand that there was a problem. They say, look, what happened in January 25th was, and they say it, a big conspiracy. It's a big conspiracy from outside, a big American Zionist conspiracy, and these young people, either they were paid to do what they did in January 25th, or they were misguided. They just couldn't comprehend that something was going wrong. They understand that there is a need for reform, but they are going about this reform with the same mindset that created the problems in the first place. Somebody once said, you cannot solve problems with the same mindset that helped create these problems in the first place. And this is exactly what they're doing. If you look at their programs, their mega projects, whether it's this Suez Canal project or building, I don't know how many millions of housing units for the poor, or reclaiming 1 million fiddans, it's exactly the same kind of narrative that one used to hear in the 1960s. And it's recreating exactly the same kind of problems that led to January 25th in the first place. So that's the first observation. Even though January 25th created this new consciousness among many, including many people in the state, that the status quo cannot continue, it is very doubtful that the ones who are running the state now have any capacity to solve the problems that they themselves created over the last few decades. So where do we go from here? The amount of repression. January 25th, as you all know, is Police Day. And January 25th, 2011, the initial impetus, the motivation for people to go out in the street was to protest against police brutality. It's still there. Repression is still there. Police, they shoot and kill people with impunity. No kind of investigation or rule of law is implemented, and this kind of repression can only lead to an explosion. In order to dismantle this deep, heavy state, I doubt that it can happen in any peaceful way. And this was another mistake that happened in January 25th. All the talk, the political correctness talk, that this is a non-peaceful revolution. We haven't seen non-peaceful revolutions before. We've seen non-peaceful political change before, but a non-peaceful revolution.
You mean non-violent?
No, non-violent, I'm sorry, of course. I think I'm even under the sway of this political correctness myself, yes. The kind of explosion that would happen, it will not happen by politically conscious groups like the 6th of April movement or the Revolutionary Socialists or whatever. It will happen by people who are just fed up. And it will be violent. As I said, I don't see a way of doing away with this state peacefully. It just won't work. There is no capacity to communicate. There is no capacity to persuade the ones who are in power to do things differently. And even if you manage to do that, you will not find the ones who can actually run a state like Egypt that would come with a different mentality, a different mindset, that would actually do things differently. Now, would that be considered a bad scenario? Well, there's even a worse scenario. And the worst scenario would be that because of the rents that are coming to Egypt from the Gulf, and now we've seen Frau Merkel just gave Mr. Sisi an audience in Davos, so probably the rents that are coming from the West are probably going to continue. Now we hear the talk about the need for a strong man in Egypt in order to fight terrorism and to ensure stability, exactly the same kind of narrative that we were hearing from the West during the time of Mubarak. So even if the money from the Gulf is going to be reduced, most probably the money from Europe and from the United States are going to pour in again. So the worst scenario would be that because of all these rents and because of some economic growth that would be perhaps more evenly distributed than before, you will get kind of a back to the status quo with the continuation of repression. And I'm saying this would be a worse scenario because it is only postponing the explosion. As Dina said, we don't see any possibility to really deal with the major issues. Now, as I said, it's a delicate equilibrium, it's a balance, and it's really too early to say how things are going to end up, which leads me to the third scenario, a very optimistic scenario, but it is not unlikely. Celia mentioned the work that we're doing now, looking outside Cairo and the big cities for initiatives. And that's another major legacy of January 25th. Everywhere you go, you find young people getting together trying to do something. On a very local level, whether it's the project from Mayadeen is a very good example of this. There are so many initiatives like this. On the grassroots, people are just realizing that they have to do things on their own, away from the power of the state. The state is weighing down on them. If you have an organization in Beni Suef or Mahalla, you cannot go out of your office without getting the permission of the security services. But people do go out of their offices and they do a lot of good work. Even the state, we have to remember that the state is not a monolithic entity. There are people in the state who realize that they cannot continue like this. The state is fighting with each other. The different apparatuses of the state are in conflict, and this conflict is a good thing. So it's too early to say. The jury is still out. But to wrap up, the key message is January 25th has started a game, and the game is not over yet.
Thank you. Ramy, the floor is yours.
لا لا تمام. Hello. I will try to talk from 2 points of views. The first one as an independent protester, and the second one as an artist. I will start with the point of view of the independent protesters. I am one of them. I didn't join any party. I didn't join any movement that happened before revolution or after revolution. I'm lucky one to born in the political life with the 25th of January revolution, because this generation is totally uncorrupted, because we didn't know anything about the deals or how the politicians in Egypt dealing about solving any problems. We started like a totally new kind of fight, and we changed it a lot. Now I changed like 180 degrees, and my mentality changed I think for better. Yeah, about respecting the other ideology, about respecting any different religions, like the equality between male and female because we are living in a stupid male community in Egypt. So I'm just saying this stuff because I want to say that even if the revolution not reaching yet like any goals we had in the 18 days when we started in 2011, but we changed it. Like there's a new generation now in Egypt like me. I'm not the only one who changed it like that, and we still believe in our fight. We're still fighting, even if we are passing by the hardest time in our revolutions, like the post time, you can say that. And I think that's always happening in any revolution history. And now we started to realize that we need time, because in 2011 we were like a dreamers, like we wanted our revolution to win now in 2011, but that wasn't possible. We need time to work, a lot of effort, and to be more organized. Yeah, and about being organizing, that's, I think, it's our weak point till now. We are in a big fight between the old regime, the military, and the Muslim Brotherhood, the Salafist people, and the businessmen from the old regime, and our side, and also the normal people. We still the weakest side till now because we don't have, I will say, like a leader, and a leader that's not just meaning a person, maybe it's meaning an idea to believe with and to go with. Because till now we are still saying like down Mubarak, down Tantawi, down Morsi, down Sisi, without giving any alternative solution for the people. And the normal people, they always want to listen to something, and we still don't have this thing to say for them. That's why we are, for the normal people, like just guys like love fighting something, and they are totally uneducated people. So it's very easy for the government to deceive them using the media. The last year was the hardest year, I said, especially for the independent protesters. But now, most of us, we started to realize that we have to trust each other more than before, because in 2011 and 2012, a lot of people betrayed us, betrayed the revolution, so we lost any kind of trust to each other. But now that's became better, especially that now it's so easy for in Egypt to see the good one from the bad one. If you saw anyone who was against Mubarak, Tantawi, Morsi and Sisi, and he was always like straight in that, so he's a good one. So you, at least you can find like an easy way to find your people to fight with. Yeah, and about any collaboration with the Muslim Brotherhood from our side, from the independent protesters, for me, I don't like to collaborate with them again anymore. But also, like we sometimes asking the youth of them like to leave this stupid group and to join the fight with the independent movement, which is important for our generation, and that's about the generation who lived the revolution in 2011. Also, there's another good view, like we have to say it, that the next generations, they are more smart, and they live the social media, they grown up with social media, with globalization and everything like that, and they know everything, and they are a little bit jealous from the generation who started the revolution. They want to have something like us. That's really, they're saying that. And the point that we have a great responsibility to keep them from being lost, and that's, I think, will be with our strongest weapon, strongest peaceful weapon, which is art, all kind of art. The art played very important role in the revolution in 18 days until now. Yeah, from my side, I started my music, my real music life in the revolution, the 18 days. I was lucky to start my life like that, singing for sometimes 500,000 same time, singing with me, and how much the music helped a lot the people to motivate them or to encourage them or to make them like the hard time to pass easier. And also the painters, actors, like poets, all kind of art helped a lot the revolution. So now in time like we are living in, which is not easy like before to demonstrate or to start anything like a sit-in or something. So the most important tool we have is using our music or any kind of art. And especially that when Sisi came again, the freedom of expression, freedom of speech is not like before. It's become harder to say anything. But also it's a very big responsibility for the artist to keep going, doing something like that. Yeah, and here Ammar Abu Bakr, one of the most important graffiti painters in our revolution, he is here now, and he is in Berlin for painting. Yeah, Shayma Sabat, Allah yarhamha. And also we have a lot of artists everywhere now moving for exchanging experience with people from everywhere. Now I'm in Sweden now for 3 months for studying music for 2 years. Then I will go back. I don't know what I will face when I will go back, but yeah, that's my decision. And yeah, my point that to say that we need to focus a lot about the art and how much it's important in this time, and it's still working very good. It's always working. Art always working. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I think you gave us enough food for thought. I think there are two major points you share. One is that thing is about tactics, but also about what can we tell people and what can we tell both activists, but also like the normal people on the street, the people who have been suffering economically, who have been maybe enthusiastic but aren't any longer, who are sick of violence, who think, well, I can't even send my daughter out going shopping any longer because Cairo became so dangerous. So what can we tell these people on the one hand, but what can we tell those people who want to fight on, go on, change things? You mentioned tactics. I think it's also really very important. And with tactics, of course, come coalitions and solidarity. You mentioned the question: can we work, or could Egyptian activists work with the Muslim Brotherhood? Because at least to my knowledge, what made Tahrir so successful was because so many different people came together sharing this one aim. And of course the Ikhwan and also the Ultras were very important. But their position towards, let's say, violence or their analysis of Morsi is quite different. So where is there common ground? I think that's the whole idea of coalitions, with whom to work, except for the local level. I think nobody doubts that, but still there you need a message. So then what is the message? Is it reform or building institutions? But then again, you need to explain to people why they should bother. It's because there should be hope to change something. And I'm also interested in what is the regional context. I mean, very often the arguments you hear is like, okay, of course Sisi is not doing well, but look at Syria, look at Libya, you don't want to go there. And at least whenever I visited Egypt in 2013 and 12, you really also had the feeling it's possible that all these different type of violence which happened did change the society, and the lack of trust is not only something activists had, it's also among very normal people. Say, you don't know who's doing what, and we feel different. Egypt changed, also to the bad, not only to the good. And so I think these are some of the questions